about the last minute time adjustment, but thank you all for being here on time. Looks like we got the Kumari sisters from Pakistan there, Usha, Damni, and Jia. It's nice to see you all. Please turn on your videos and we will do the Mangala Charanam. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustite Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Terubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Shatarane Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So we finished chapter 1 yesterday, and we saw how Arjuna got left in a very difficult situation, right? He was very emotional. He was unable to do his duty. He was dropping his Gandiva bow, which he would never ever do. There was even a story that he vowed that if anybody even suggested that he put down his Gandiva bow, he would kill that person. So what to speak of him just out of weakness, just it's slipping from his hands. So you can see that for an amazing, powerful, trained Kshatriya like Arjuna to be that wrecked, by distress, that his bow would slip from his hand on the battlefield of all places. That's like very severe. So why does Krishna put his dear devotee Arjuna in such distress? Any ideas? Yes, Vishaka.
Mataji placed Arjuna in such distress so that he could speak Bhagavad Gita. If he hadn't stressed Arjuna, then he wouldn't surrender himself to Krishna in that situation. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Nishta.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. It's being mentioned, as per my understanding, it's mentioned in text 2.1, where in the purport itself, because Arjuna was crying for the material compassion. He was compassionate, but because of the material causes. He was lamenting because of the material causes, and all those were the sign of ignorance of the real self. So therefore, Krishna wanted to make him realize that this is not what reality is, and he has to know about his real self in the form of Madhusudana.
Okay, good. So sometimes suffering is good for us because it makes us realize the nature of this world and how material attachments don't make us happy, and it can be an impetus to make us seek an alternative way of living in this world, right? To go for spiritual life, to approach the Lord. Thank you, and thank you for citing Prabhupada's purport. Vaibhavi.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Mataji has already answered, but I would want to add one or two lines here that Krishna also wanted us to learn that this bodily concept is not going to take us anywhere. It will only tangle us in problems, in trouble. It is not going to give us solutions. So we have to come out of this bodily concept and understand what is our relationship with the Supreme, and then how we can work on that so that we can serve the Supreme. Hare Krishna.
Okay, good. Thank you. And that's what the Bhagavad Gita is all about, right? How to bring us to that point. So, yeah, I would also like to add, in answering to this question, that Krishna puts Arjuna in this extremely difficult situation where he has to kill his own family members. Like, can you imagine having to do anything worse than that? You know, it's like sometimes the alarm clock goes off, we don't want to get up. Or maybe you have a job, you don't want to go to work. Or maybe, you know, the kids are being demanding and you don't really want to deal with them, but you have to deal with them because it's your duty, right? So we have so many duties that we don't always want to perform, but we just need to surrender. But imagine if your duty is that you need to kill your grandfather, you need to kill your favorite teacher, you need to kill, you know, your cousins and nephews and uncles. That's like something huge to surrender to. So Krishna's putting Arjuna in this extreme situation to show us that when we surrender to Krishna, we have to surrender, you know, to whatever it is that Krishna has in store for us, whatever it is that he wants us to do in the line of duty, in the line of service to Guru and Krishna, and to abandon everything else, like forget about all other considerations and just surrender to Krishna. So this is a big lesson, and it's showing us how surrender is not a cheap thing. When you surrender to Guru and Krishna, it's not a cheap thing. It's like, it's a heavy thing. You know, you're making a big statement about your life and how you want to live it. Okay. All right. So let's start chapter 2. Chapter 2 is a long chapter. Contents of the Gita summarized. Covers many points that will be elaborated on later in the Bhagavad Gita. And it starts with Sanjay saying, Tam tata kripaya vishtam ashru purna kulekshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudana. So now in the whole chapter 1, Krishna didn't say a word. He was just standing there in the chariot observing Arjuna going through all of his traumas and tribulations. So chapter 2 is where Krishna is going to speak, and he speaks first in the next verse, text 2. But here Sanjay is he's introducing this scene now that Krishna's he's noticing that Arjuna, he's lamenting because of compassion. And Krishna is actually moved by Arjuna's compassion, but at the same time, he recognizes that it's misplaced. So that's the whole point here, that Prabhupada says, no one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is useless. So, yeah, Arjuna is feeling compassion for his family members just because of the bodily relationship. But in chapter 2, Krishna is going to tell him again and again that we're not this body, and the bodily relationships are not the most important thing, and your compassion is misplaced. Okay. So remember, that was the first reason for Arjuna not fighting, was compassion. So now with this section, first section of chapter 2, Krishna is going to defeat this argument of compassion. Like, your compassion is not a good reason to not fight, because your compassion is misplaced. This is not actual compassion. You're thinking it's compassion, but it's not. Okay. So then text 2, Krishna is going to speak. And this is the first where we hear Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. And here in this, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada really emphasizes on the word Bhagavan, because it's Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Bhagavan. It's Bhagavan's Gita. And so Prabhupada takes some time to establish who is Bhagavan and why is Krishna Bhagavan. And that is in order to establish the authority of the Bhagavad Gita, that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead talking. And he explains how Bhagavan is the ultimate and complete feature of the Lord. And there are different stages, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And Prabhupada compares it to the sun. So Brahma is compared to the sunshine, that the sunshine is also the sun. So it's Achintya Veda, Veda Tattva, all of these, they're the same as the sun. Sunshine is the same as the sun, but also it's different from the sun. The sun shines in your window, you can say, oh, the sun's in my room, right? But if the sun was in your room would be burnt to ashes in a second. So it's there and it's not there. And this Brahman realization of God is understood by the impersonalists, the Brahmavadis. And then the next Paramatma is compared to the sun disk. Like when we look in the sky, we just see a traditional circle there, and we say that's the sun. So that's also true. It's the sun, but there's a lot more to the sun than just that little two-dimensional disk that just looks like a bright frisbee in the sky up there. But that is the Paramatma realization is understood by the yogis. So the yogis meditate on the Lord in the heart, and if they're successful in their yoga, then they come to realize Paramatma, the localized form of the Lord. But that's just a temporary, partial manifestation of the Lord. It's not the Lord in his completeness. So it's only Bhagavan that we get to know the personal form of the Lord. And Bhagavan means the possessor of all the opulences, right? All riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. Those 6 things that Krishna has. That if anybody has even a little bit of any of those 6 things, then they're a person who is respected, adored, appreciated. They're considered to be a great person in this world. But Krishna has all of them in full. So he is the greatest person. The Bhagavan realization is compared to the sun god. So if we see the sun rays and we follow them, we can see the sun disk. But if we actually get close to the sun disk, which we can't in these bodies, but if we could, then we can see that it's actually a globe. It's a planet. And on that planet, there's people that live there. There are palaces and parks and roads and all kinds of things going on. It's full of life, just like this planet is, but it's a higher planet. So even better standard of living. And there's the sun god, Suryadev, who reigns over that planet. And he has his own personality. So it's like having a personal relationship with the sun god. And so some people think God is just a light, just the divine light. And others think he's just in the heart. But Bhagavan means you have a personal relationship with the Lord. You can serve him, you can interact with him, you can play with him, you can dance with him, like the residents of Vrindavan do. So that level of realization, the Bhagavan realization, is realized only by devotees. It takes bhakti to realize Bhagavan. And Bhagavan is the complete realization because the 3 features of Sat, Chit, and Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss, are only realized at the stage of Bhagavan realization. In Brahman, we can realize that we're also Brahman. We're eternal spirit souls, Aham Brahmasmi. In Paramatma, we get knowledge, eternity in knowledge. But because we can't engage in a relationship, in like a service, a reciprocal service relationship with Paramatma, then we can't realize the bliss. We don't get the Ananda. And that's only available when we begin a devotional service to Bhagavan. So those are some important points that are brought up here. So now we understand that this is who's speaking Bhagavad Gita. This is Bhagavan. And this is important because we want to have the full realization. We don't want to go away with some partial realization of God, some just hodgepodge, ho-hum, understanding of God. We want to know God in full, the highest realization. And so here we're hearing from God himself about himself. So what could be more authoritative? And when we listen to him, then we get to know him. Just like if you want to get to know someone, you go and talk to them. They tell you about themselves. They tell you about their life, what they do, what they like, all that. So Krishna is telling us about himself here. He's telling him that I'm like this, I do this, I feel this. You can understand me this way. You can remember me like this. So it's very valuable for information for anybody who wants to have a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and realize him in full. And that's why Krishna emphasizes all over the Bhagavad Gita that this is the highest path. This is the perfection of religion. It's the highest yoga of all, like the perfection of yoga. Yeah. Okay. So in text 3, now, well, text 2 already. In text 2 and 3, Krishna is chastising Arjuna. He's saying, oh, you know, you think you're being very religious and very righteous and very ethical, but actually I'm seeing it very differently. Sometimes it's like this, you know, we think we've got our lives all figured out and we're doing the right thing. And then we talk to a senior devotee and they're like, Prabhu, sorry to say, this is total Maya. So that's exactly what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. He's saying, you know, you're speaking learned words, but actually you're exposing yourself as just a big fool. You're not very intelligent at all. In fact, I can see that your consciousness is very impure. How have these impurities come upon you? You know, I would expect such reasoning from, you know, an uneducated person, somebody who's not trained, somebody who's born in an underprivileged family or something. But you, Arjuna, you're my eternal associate. You're in the royal family. You've had the best training. And why are you speaking all this nonsense? So he's surprised that Arjuna is giving all this mundane reasoning. And Arjuna also, he's you know, he's a warrior, so he's supposed to be strong. He's supposed to be powerful. But so Krishna's really being very heavy with him to call such a Kshatriya as Arjuna as impotent. He's saying, do not yield to this degrading impotence. And give up this petty weakness of heart. Kshudram hridaya durbalyam. So yeah, that means this petty weakness of heart. And he says, tyaktva. Tyaktva means give it up, just reject it. And do what? Utishta, get up. Reject this nonsense, this mundane lamentation. This is like what, you know, weak people do. You're supposed to be a Kshatriya and just get up now. Arise. So, yeah. Prabhupada writes in the purport to text 3, says, Arjuna might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for the most respectable Bhishma and his relatives. But Krishna considered that sort of magnanimity mere weakness of heart. Such false magnanimity was not approved by any authority. So Arjuna's thinking is compassion, but Krishna's saying it's not compassion, it's just weakness. You know, like sometimes we give excuses for service, but if we come down to it, a lot of it is just laziness. It's just, you know, material attachments. We don't have good reasons. So this is what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. And he uses this name Parantapa, which means the scorcher of foes. Your name means that you're supposed to destroy your enemies. You're supposed to burn these enemies up to ashes. And you're just sitting here crying like a little girl or something, you know. So Krishna is really giving it to him. Okay, now Arjuna is going to try to defend himself here. Right? Sometimes we do this. We have our reasons, and somebody's like, forget it, that's nonsense. And we're like, no, but this, that, the other thing. So now Arjuna is going to come with his no buts. So his first thing is, he's saying, now wait a minute, Krishna. You're telling me to kill these, but would you kill your grandfather? This is implied here, right? When he says, oh, killer of Madhusudana. So yeah, Krishna, you killed so many demons. Like, I'm okay with killing demons. But, you know, Bhishmadev, he's not a demon. I mean, Bhishmadev is a devotee. He's like you said, yeah, he's a Mahajana. How can I kill Bhishmadev? Dronacharya, he's not a demon. So you killed many demons. Okay, fine. But would you kill your grandfather who was so affectionate to you, King Ugrasen? Would you kill Sandipani Muni, who taught you all the 64 arts and skills that are so valuable for your life? It's like, come on, this is apples and oranges here. Let's compare similar things. So, yeah, then he's saying, I'd rather just die than kill them. And Prabhupada says in the purport here, because Arjuna is thinking, how can I kill my teacher who is worthy of worship? So Prabhupada says, according to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. So actually, when Drona took the side, as soon as Dronacharya took the side of Duryodhana, then he lost all of his respectability, basically. He compromised his principles. So it's like if you have a guru or a mentor or a teacher, and they may have helped you in your Krishna consciousness, but they go and, break a regular principle, they leave ISKCON, they go back to a sinful life, then you have to break the relationship. They have to be abandoned. So that's what Prabhupada is saying here. Yeah, it says under the circumstances, they lost the respectability of teachers. So they're not worthy of Arjuna's worship anymore, since they sided with this demoniac Duryodhana. So in text 6, we see that Arjuna is very confused. And this is actually his 5th reason for not fighting. Yesterday we saw 4 different reasons for not fighting. Can anyone remember what those 4 reasons were? Vishaka.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
We can withdraw. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji. The 4 reasons were, the first one was that out of compassion he wasn't able to fight, and the second one was he was saying, Krishna, that you are Govinda, you give pleasure to the senses. Then how can you indulge me in this war? And then the third reason was that we would get more sinful if we will kill our spiritual masters and all other relatives. And in the third reason, you also mentioned about Madhava, that you give good fortune to people, and then how could you give bad fortune by making me fight this war? And the fourth reason was that all the social ills will come by killing all the males of the family. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so the first one was compassion. The second one was that no, there's not going to be any enjoyment in it for me. The third one is that I'll get sinful reactions. And the fourth one is the whole society basically will be destroyed, will go to hell. And so now the 5th one here is indecision. Indecision. He just didn't know what to do. So when you're not sure what to do this or to do that, you tend to do nothing. So not sure whether to fight or not fight, so I'm not going to fight. Chanika Pandit says, if you're not sure whether to eat or not eat, then don't eat. If you're not sure whether to go somewhere or not go somewhere, don't go. So that's the tendency, is if we're not sure, then we don't do anything. So that's what Arjuna is saying here in text 6. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. So he's in this state of indecision. Okay. And so he's confused. He doesn't know what to do. Should I fight? Should I not fight? Should I stay? Should I go to the forest? Should I kill them or should I be killed? He was just in this big quandary. So then in the next verse, we see Arjuna's example of what everyone should do when they're in a position where they don't know what to do with their lives, when they don't know which way to turn or what decision to make. Then they should approach a spiritual master. And that's what Arjuna does in this very famous verse. Karpanya dosha pahata swabhavaha prichami tvam dharma samudha chetaha yat shreyasya nishchitam bruhitan me Shishyashteham shadimam tvam prapanam. So Arjuna says, now I'm confused about my duty, and I've lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple, and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So here Arjuna admits that he's being weak. He said, I've lost my composure because of miserly weakness. It's just like you said, Krishna. You told me that I have this petty weakness of heart. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I'm feeling. And because of that weakness, I'm confused. And so because I don't know what's best for me, I'm turning to you because I trust that you know what's best for me. So please tell me what that is. I'm your disciple. I'm not approaching you as a friend anymore, because Krishna and Arjuna had this very friendly relationship previously. It's mentioned later that in chapter 11, that they would lie on the same bed, they would talk together, like just hanging out and laughing and joking. Sometimes Arjuna would even tease Krishna that, oh, Yadava, you're just a Yadava, because the Yadus were cursed that they would never be able to rule. They would never be able to be kings. So he's like, I'm here in the royal family. I'm in the royal Kuru family, and we'll be the kings. We'll be the rulers of this planet. And you're just a Yadava, So he would joke and tease with him, the way boys tease each other like that. So, but now this is very different. Now he's like, oh, I really need your help. And so we see that in text 10, jumping ahead a little bit, it says that at that time, Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke to Arjuna. So why is Krishna smiling? Because would you be smiling if your friend is in great distress like that? But Krishna's smiling. Is he just like evil or something that he enjoys seeing Arjuna suffering? Yes, Dayalohana.
Hare Krishna, he's smiling on Maya Shakti. That's why.
No, he's not. There's another reason. Pandit Gadadhar.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Probably Krishna is smiling because he saw that now finally that is going to speak Bhagavad Gita for him and for the entire world, something like that probably.
Okay, that's a good speculation. That may be part of it, but there's something Srila Prabhupada specifically mentions in the purport. Nishta?
Mataji, as per the purport, Krishna is smiling because the friend had chosen to become a disciple. As Lord of all, he is always superior in position as the master of everyone. And yet Lord agrees to be friend, son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. But
Okay.
when he was accepted as the master, that part Mataji.
Yeah, so that's what Prabhupada says in the text 10 purport, that Krishna was smiling because his friend became his disciple. And that's showing the superior position. Because sometimes if someone wants to be friendly with Krishna, Krishna will be friendly with him. But ultimately, he's the Lord. So he also needs to show that he's the Lord. And so he's happy when he gets opportunities to show that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of everyone. And now the mood is going to change, that before they were just talking and joking together, but now the relationship is going to become grave. So the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple, it's a grave relationship, right? When you go before the spiritual master, it's not time to be joking and messing around. It's an occasion of gravity that we have to prepare our mind for. This is serious. So, of course, some gurus, they have a light mood, they have a jolly mood. And so, if the guru is making a joke, you should also laugh at his joke. Don't just sit there thinking, I have to be grave, my guru. So you have to also be sensitive and understand the guru's mood, that he's in it. If he's in a light mood, you can also and smile and laugh with him. But the point is that we need to take that relationship very seriously and please the guru. Okay. All right, so let's do something. Here in these verses, text 6 to 11, where Arjuna is surrendering to Krishna and giving his reasons again for not wanting to fight, and leading up to and including Krishna's first instruction in text 11. What are some general principles from Arjuna's dilemma here on the battlefield that can apply to our practice of Krishna consciousness? So this is a personal application question here. So I try to identify some principles. Something we can learn from Arjuna's crisis.
Hare Krishna, Maji, Pranam. Maji, from text
Yes.
number 7, we have to see.
Okay, what about it?
No, which text we have to see, Mataji?
Oh, from 6 to 11.
Okay, Maji.
Okay, Vaibhavi's got something there.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So, as per my understanding, I believe that what I have learned to apply in my life is that whenever I'm in a situation where I'm not able to control my mind, my senses, or I'm not able to control my lamentation or hankering, I should straight away approach to my spiritual master or Krishna so that they can help me, because sometimes we are not able to control our things, we are not able to work on ourselves, so we should take some guidance so that we can uh, get back on the right track. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Okay, great, good. Yeah, and in the beginning of the purport to text 7, Prabhupada says, by nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. So he's saying that this material world is designed to give us problems. It's just, if we have problems in life, don't be surprised. The material world is designed to do that. It's by nature's arrangement, the complete system of material activities is meant to be a source of perplexity. It's designed to perplex us and push us to approach a spiritual master for how to get free from the perplexities of life. Okay, good. So that's the main principle here in this section, which applies to us. So those of you who have your hands up, don't repeat the same principle. Tell me something different. Bhavika.
Hare Krishna Mataji. The principle that we should apply in the Krishna consciousness, as per my knowledge, is complete surrender. That once we completely surrender to God, then He's always there to help us out. And till we are analyzing all the situations, and we are perplexed by our mind that what will happen and what not will happen, then we are puzzled. But the moment we completely surrender to God, and then we say that we are nothing, then we are able to achieve. Then we are able to achieve that what we want. Like the God is pleased, and then the complete surrender is there, and then our mind, kind of the confusion gets over.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Yes.
a similar point that was already mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nishta.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, based upon text 27, when we come to text 2.11, as in 1.1, there Arjuna was arguing that religious principles should be given more importance in comparison to politics or sociology. Krishna states this thing that he was not aware of the knowledge, as in not the knowledge of it, but that matter, soul, and the supreme is more important than the religious principle. So anyone who is a learned person, that person knows that body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, body is not as important as the soul. Therefore, this helps us to go forward in our Krishna consciousness. that we work upon it and try to know the difference between what is more important and what should be given more emphasis on.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. That's excellent. Yeah. And so, yeah, Arjuna gave all these religious reasons for not fighting, right? But they're based on moral or social ethics, religious formularies, in other words, or political correctness, as we say nowadays. And he wasn't considering the soul and the supreme. So Prabhupada saying that knowledge of the soul and the supreme is more important than these religious formularies. And for ourselves, sometimes we can also get caught up in political correctness, mundane morality, right? Mundane morality is a big thing. And just ritualistic things, mechanical, ritualistic, so-called devotional practices. And we can just forget about, we can be caught up in our rituals and our mundane morality that we forget about Krishna. We forget that we're souls. We forget about our relationship with Krishna. And we're just like living a mundane, mechanical life. So we have to keep our relationship as souls to Krishna in the forefront, and keep what they say, keep the most important thing the most important thing. All right, Tulsi Devi.
Hare Krishna. I think from this purport, I can understand from purport 6, I can understand that we have to make the guru which can help us to understand Krishna consciousness. And we have to surrender to all to it. And second thing is we have to make the relationship with guru, like you said that we have to make relationship with guru, and disciple relationship should be in grace.
Okay, so that's a principle. So that applies to us, is that in our relationships with our spiritual masters, we should take the matter very seriously. Like Prabhupada would say, don't accept a guru as a fashion, just because you want to, or for prestige, that now I'm an initiated devotee, I'm better than all the uninitiated devotees, or now I have a really cool spiritual name, or something like that. But it should be a very serious thing. This is an act of surrender, and we're talking about how serious surrender is. Okay, so there are actually many principles in these purports. For example, at the end of text 6 purport, Prabhupada says, unless the senses are controlled, there is no chance of elevation to the platform of knowledge. And without knowledge and devotion, there is no chance of liberation. So that's a principle there. Because we see that Arjuna, he's having difficulty controlling his mind and senses. But and we also struggle to control our minds and senses. But if we can't control our minds and senses, we're not going to be able to get actual transcendental knowledge. And without that, then there's no chance of liberation. So it's emphasizing the importance of controlling the mind. Jyoti?
Hare Krishna Mataji. In text 2.10, it is given like, as friends, both of them were on the same level. But when Arjuna, he accepted Krishna as his guru and became his disciple, Krishna started, he stood and smiled, and in the midst of both the armies spoke the following words. So it tells whenever we should be assured and have faith that whenever how Krishna helped in this situation, and he started in the further verses, he started giving instructions in our daily life. If we trust Krishna and hand over to us, Krishna will surely help us. So this is one of the best example in this, how he helped in this serious situation.
Okay, good. So even if we're in the most grief-stricken situation, we can approach Krishna, and Krishna is always smiling. Krishna's nothing's too difficult for him. Our biggest problems, we approach Krishna, he's just like, it's okay, we'll get through this. Good. Dayalohana. Oh, that was from before. Vaibhavi.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I had one more point here. In text 9, it is mentioned that he surrendered unto Krishna, the Arjuna surrendered unto Krishna, the Supreme Personality the Supreme Spiritual Master, as a disciple. And soon he'll be free from all the lamentations. So what I understand here is, if we surrender unto Krishna, with full conviction and full faith, we'll also be free from the lamentations, from the affection, from the results, and we'll be in perfect knowledge of self-realization. Hare Krishna.
Okay, good. Yeah, it also says here in just that same sentence that you're referring to in the purport, it says he would be free from the false lamentation resulting from family affection, and he would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self-realization. So this is another point, is that mundane affection for family turns out to be a cause of lamentation. So you see, whenever we're like undergoing grief and lamentation in our life, it's like 90% of the time it's due to something related to our families, isn't it? These families are a cause of a lot of trouble. It's like they say, you can't live with them and you can't live without them. What to do, you know? So yeah, but throughout our scriptures we hear about family life and the pitfalls of family life and all this, which doesn't mean that we should reject our families, but it means that we should reject the mundane perception of our family members. And like we shouldn't have this, what Prabhupada calls the skin disease. A skin disease means that because these people are from the same bodily relationships as myself, we have the same skin, then I'll have affection for them and not for others. So, but we should see everyone as spirit souls, that somehow Krishna, by our karma, he's brought us together, and we have to work through some things together according to our karma. And so I'm going to do that very dutifully and very consciously, and try to help my family members in Krishna consciousness. And then we can understand that everything is in Krishna's hands when our attitude towards the family is like that, and we won't become victims of this false lamentation. Okay, we'll take one more from Jyoti.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Here, like two things which I understood was like when we say that everything is like 100% Krishna conscious is the bona fide spiritual master, for he can solve the problems of life. So from this we understand that what is our constitutional position. It means without the help we cannot if we think sometimes that we are the doers and we are the one who does the things, we cannot solve all the problems in the life alone by ourselves. So we should be rather remain humble. So it clearly explains what is our position in our life.
Good. Yeah, that's great. That's from text 8 in the purport. Prabhupada says, yes, academic knowledge, scholarship, high position, etc. are all useless in solving the problems of life. So yeah, don't think that because you have a high educational degree from the best university that you're going to be able to solve the problems of life. Don't think that because you're the top manager in your company that you're going to, and you earn a lot of money, that you're going to be able to solve the problems of life. Prabhupada says those types of things are useless. He says help can be given only by a spiritual master. And then another general principle actually that comes right after that is that Prabhupada says, Lord Chaitanya said that one who is a master in the science of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his social position, is the real spiritual master. So he gives us some guidance here about principles for accepting spiritual masters, that it doesn't matter what family they're born in, what their social position is, what their economic position is, what their gender is, what their age is, what their nationality is, whatever religious background they came from, doesn't matter. None of these material things matter. But anyone who knows the science of Krishna, Ye Krishna Tattva Veta, say Guru Hai. And that's the statement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so let's go on. The next section in chapter 2 is from texts, well, it really starts with texts 11. So 11 to 30. That's what we call the Gyan portion of this chapter, where Krishna is just straight up giving spiritual knowledge. He's giving the Brahma Gyan, knowledge of the soul. So, let's see. Yeah, so starting in text 11, he's introducing the idea here that you're speaking learned words, but you're mourning for what is not worthy of grief, because the wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. So the only way that you can not lament for the living or the dead is knowing that the soul doesn't die, that actually death doesn't happen. There's no death. So now he's going to go into that whole thing about how actually the soul never dies. So he starts here with Natve Vaham Jatu Nasham Natvam Neme Janadiva, that never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor anyone in the battlefield, nor anyone in the universe. And nor in the future shall any of us ever cease to be. So you're thinking you're going to end the lives of your family and relatives, but no, they're not going to die. You're killing them is not going to, you can't kill them because the soul cannot be killed. So he's going to launch into this whole thing. In this verse, particularly text 12, Srila Prabhupada writes a very long purport because he uses this verse from Bhagavad Gita to defeat Mayavad philosophy. And that was one of Srila Prabhupada's missions. You know, he spoke very strongly against Mayavad philosophy. So because what it's saying in this verse is that all living beings are eternally individuals, right? It's not that at some stage we're going to merge and all become one. He's saying that right now I'm here, you're here, all these kings are here. They're never going to cease to be. In other words, we're never going to cease to be individuals. Otherwise, why would he say I, you, and all these kings? Why wouldn't he just say the soul is eternal? The soul never cease to be. He's speaking in the plural. So he's saying that not only we're eternal, but we're eternally plural. We're eternally individuals. Yeah, because the Mayavadis, they say that individuality exists only in material existence. And that after liberation, everyone just merges into Brahman, everyone becomes God, we're all one. And yeah. So, all right, then text 13. This very well-known verse, this is usually the first verse anybody learns from Bhagavad Gita, is Dehi nosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praptir diras tatra namoyati. So he's saying that you don't need to worry because just like, you know, you're so worried about Bhishma and Drona particularly. So there was a time when they were young boys and then they became young men and then they became old men. And then the body dies, but the soul goes on, just like the same soul passed through the different stages of life. They're also going to go on. And in fact, they're going to get new bodies. So actually you're doing them a favor because they're already old. They're just in the phase of life where they're going to dwindle anyway, right? Anybody who's a very old person, they're like, I'm just on my way out now, you know, and like, can't wait to get a new start. You know, like if you're driving an old car, your car's breaking all the time. You're always taking it to the mechanic and it's just falling apart. It's like time to get a new car, you know? So the body also becomes like that after a while. Everything's just breaking and falling apart. And it's like, I really need a trade-in, get a new one. So yeah, Krishna is basically saying that you should be happy that Bhishma and Drona are going to get new bodies. And they're actually going to get a better standard of life because, you know, because they're fighting on the battlefield. This is Kurukshetra, Dharmakshetra, and Kshatriyas who die in the battlefield, they go to the heavenly planet. So it's going to be great for them. It's going to be an upgrade. And then text 14, where he says that all the ups and downs of life should be tolerated. He's saying that, yeah, okay, it's troublesome for you to do this duty. It's a huge inconvenience. You know, it's a little stressful, but we shouldn't neglect to perform our duties just because it's difficult. right? That's one of later in chapter 18 when he talks about renunciation in the modes. He says that to give up something just because it's difficult, because of physical inconvenience or because it's austere or something, that's not a reason to give something up. So yeah, we shouldn't neglect our duties just in difficult circumstances, but we should just tolerate the inconveniences, tolerate the difficulties, and just get on with our duties. And because that doing so enables us to rise to the platform of knowledge by which we become eligible for liberation. That's what Prabhupada says in the purport. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion, one can liberate himself from the clutches of Maya. So it doesn't matter if it's, 45 degrees outside, you still need to cook lunch for the family. It doesn't matter if it's like 3 degrees outside, you still need to get out of your bed and take a bath and, worship your deities. So, yeah, we just tolerate these difficulties. And they doing so makes us eligible for knowledge and liberation. Okay, then text 15, he's saying that, Prabhupada's saying that, especially a sannyasi, Prabhupada brings out this point, that especially a sannyasi needs to tolerate difficulties. But the reason that we tolerate difficulties is for a higher purpose. We're not doing it just for the sake of austerity or just pushing ourselves for, just to develop our stamina or something, but it's for a higher purpose. And we see this in the example of Lord Chaitanya, right? That Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24, yet for a higher cause, he did it. And he was steady in the discharge of his duties. Yes, Pandit Gadadhar Prabhu.
Mataji, I have a question in regards to slok number 15.
Sure.
For the first line of the purport, wherein Srila Prabhupada stresses that on the onset of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. So, Mataji, generally we see that the devotees are not looking for the liberation part, right? They want the service for Radha and Krishna. So how we can take this up?
Well, how are you going to serve Radha and Krishna if you're still full of material desires and attachments? Devotional service begins from the liberation. Actually, devotional service is on the liberated platform. So, yeah. Liberated means that we're free from material attachments. Liberated means we're off the bodily concept of life. We're not, liberation means we're no longer influenced by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So it's only on the liberated platform that we can actually be free from anarthas, free from the lower modes which push us down, which cause us to be unsteady in our service. On the liberated platform, we can just serve Krishna. We serve Krishna all the time.
So it means, Mataji, liberation is the starting point of devotional life, is it? You just iterated?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like now, while we're not on the liberated platform, we're doing sadhana bhakti, right? We're practicing. Sadhana bhakti means devotional service in practice. So we're basically practicing to be devotees. We didn't even get to the devotees yet. We're just practicing how to be a devotee. Right? We're still learning. It's like when you go to university, you're studying, you're getting the knowledge. So we're studying, we're getting the knowledge that, okay, I'm a soul, I'm eternal servant of Krishna. We understand theoretically what we have to do. So you go to university, you learn the theory of your field. And then when you get too close to graduation, you'll go and do an internship. So internship means you go into the company or research or whatever it is, you do some practical work in the field. But you're just practicing. You don't actually have a job yet, right? You didn't start your career yet. You're still learning, but you're learning on the job practically in the company. So what we're doing now, all of our services is like an internship. We're just practicing. We're becoming familiar with the processes of devotional service and how to do those devotional activities. And we're getting benefit from that for sure. You know, just like when you do your internship, if you do it well, if you're responsible, then the employer or your mentors or your supervisor that you're working with, they'll take note. They'll recognize, oh, wow, this person really knows their stuff. They really have a great skill set. They work very well. They're a good team player. Then that company's going to want to hire you, or they'll write you a good recommendation for, you know, your next career step. So like that, we're trying to please the devotees. We're trying to do our services. We're practicing. We're learning how to do these things, and we're getting benefit. And the devotees will recommend us to Krishna, you know, and we'll get the mercy of the devotees, and that will help us to actually become situated in a solid position in our careers as devotees. You see what I'm saying? And then,
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. Good question. So let us, yeah, we tend to, you know, because it says devotees are not, there's a verse, you know, that, what is it? Salokya, Samipya, Sarsti, and saying that the devotees are not interested in the 5 kinds of liberation. But the last line of that is Mat Sevanam. Wait, what is it? Anyways, the last line of it, the English is that devotees are not interested in these 5 kinds of liberations if there's no possibility of serving you. Vina mat sevanam something. So it means without devotional service. So if they can't serve you, they certainly don't want to merge with you, because then there's no possibility of service. But they don't even want to go to your planet or to have your opulences or have a form like yours if they can't serve you. So the point, this verse is emphasizing service. The devotees want to serve. If going to Vaikuntha or going to Goloka is going to give them more opportunities for service, then let's go. You know, if having a 4-armed form like Vishnu is going to help you serve him better, then yeah, give me whatever form I can serve you better with. But it's not about the form. It's not about the location. It's not about the opulences. We're not interested in that, because other people who are going for liberation, that's what they want. They want some nice, comfortable position. They want a beautiful body that never dies, whatever. That's what they want. So the point there is not that liberation is a bad thing. Actually, we need to come to the liberated stage. But liberation is not the goal. Liberation is just a facility for increasing our service and making our service more steady and more pure. Okay. All right. So we're going through these verses here. Deepika.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Sada Pranam. Mataji, actually, the concept of liberation is not yet clear to me. Can you kindly explain it more, please? Elaborate the concept of liberation. What exactly is liberation? I want to know.
Yeah, liberation means the transcendental position. It means you've transcended the modes of material nature and you've come to the level of Brahman, right? Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labhate Param. So Krishna says that when one comes to that Brahman platform, realizes that they're a spirit soul, then they no longer hanker for anything material. They no longer lament over any material losses. They see all living beings as equal on the spiritual platform. And in that state, they attain pure devotional service to Krishna. So it's on that Brahma Bhuta, it's on the liberated platform that one can come to pure devotional service.
So Mataji,
as long as we're
sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. Mataji, it means like we can be a liberated soul by going in the pious path of Bhakti Marg, just being alive in this body only. It's not that a person is dead and then he goes to that liberation.
Yeah, we can be liberated even in this lifetime, of course. Jivan Mukta Sa Uchite. Yeah, one who engages their mind, body, and words in serving Krishna, they become liberated even in this life. Yeah, liberation is not what you achieve after death. Liberation, we're trying to become liberated now. We're trying to get free from our conditioning now. We're trying to arise above the modes of material nature now. And devotional service does that, right? Krishna says, Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the level of Brahman, comes to that Brahma Bhuta liberated platform. So in the beginning, we're doing devotional service, practicing, trying to become transcendental to all these things. And then on the transcendental platform of Shuddha Sattva, then we can really serve. Then we can really connect with Krishna, because Krishna is always on the level of Shuddha Sattva. Okay, let's go on. So text 16. All right, so here Krishna is giving this argument that those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there's no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there's no change. So yeah, understanding that the cells of the material body are changing at every moment, but the soul remains eternally the same, is the beginning of removing our ignorance that blocks us from realizing our relationship with Krishna. So this is, we have to understand the nature of the difference, the distinction between spiritual and material. So Krishna is saying, we're dealing with two different things here. There's the material body, which is temporary, and then there's the soul, which is eternal. So don't confuse the two things. Yes, Pandit Gadadhar.
Mataji, sorry, I'm going back to the previous one only. Mataji, you stated that liberation comes to the platform of Brahman, but Brahman is the the effulgent rays coming from the Krishna's body. So Mayavadis also want to merge into that Brahman, and we are at the platform. A devotee can also be at the platform of liberation or the Brahman, wherein they can start their devotional journey or the devotional life ahead. So the chances are. Yes, Mataji.
I'm not saying that when I say come to the level of Brahman, it doesn't mean you go to the Brahma Jyoti in the spiritual sky. Come to the level of Brahman means that you come to the transcendental position, that you come to the spiritual platform, that you realize even in this world, like I was saying, that even now, that you're a soul, that you're eternal soul, not just that you know it theoretically in your head, but you realize it. You're living your life as a soul. Everything that you do is because you're a soul, and you see others as souls. You see everything as Krishna's energy. The word Brahman just means spirit. So you come to the spiritual platform, and everything you do becomes spiritual activity. You spiritualize everything in your life by connecting it in devotional service to Krishna. That's Brahman. That's what it means to come to the level of Brahman for us. We don't want to go to Brahma Jyoti. That's the last place we want to end up. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, Bhavika.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, I also have a question. That's also from the previous verse, 15. It says, but one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyasa order of life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulties usually arise from having too severe family relationship to give up the connection of wife and children. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulty, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Mataji, my question is that to attain the self-realization, is it important to give up the family relationships and connections?
No, you don't have, you don't have to leave the family. You don't have to leave home and go travel all over the world like a sannyasi. You just have to come to the transcendental knowledge. You have to change your perception of your family members. You have to give up the I, me, and my conception that I am a member of this family. These children are mine. These are my children, my parents, my husband, my sister, my brother, and like that. So we have to give up the I, me, and mine. We have to understand this is Krishna's eternal servant. This one is also Krishna's eternal servant. And this one is Krishna's eternal servant. All these, and that Krishna has just put us together in this lifetime because we have particular karma that we need to experience with these particular people. We probably have connections from previous lifetimes that we need to, some karmic debts that we need to pay to these people, to these souls. And so we need to, learn how to live with them and suffer our reactions from our past lifetimes, and also enjoy the good karma that we have from past lifetimes. There's suffering and there's enjoyment. But ultimately, this is just a very temporary situation. Like Prabhupada said that we should live with our families like guests in a hotel. That the guests, they come together, they stay in the hotel for, maybe 3-4 days. And maybe they talk together in the restaurant. Maybe they'll even go somewhere. They'll go to the beach together or something. And then they go their separate ways. They check out and go their separate ways. So it's like that with our family. We're with them for some time. We do things together with them. We try to help each other to whatever we can. But one by one, they're going to check out of our lives. It's a temporary relationship. So don't think that it's not the all in all. That's the mistake we make, is we think that this family, it's the all in all. The all in all is Krishna. The cause of all causes and all that is Krishna. And our family members are Krishna's eternal servants. So we have our main obligation to them is to help them come to Krishna consciousness. Right? And it says that in Bhagavatam that one should not become a father or a mother or a spiritual master or a husband if one cannot deliver their dependents from the cycle of repeated birth and death. So that's our duty, to see them as souls and to act in a way that help these souls that Krishna's put in my care or put in my association, to help them to get free from the cycle of repeated birth and death, reconnect with Krishna, go back home, back to Godhead. That's our real home. This house that we live in, the city that we live in, this is not our real home. This is a prison. We're in the prison cell together. That's what we are. That's what our homes are. They're like prison cells here in the huge prison of the material world. So we want to help them get free.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay. I know that sounds heavy, but that's just what it is. Okay, Nishta.
Mataji, I have two doubts. One is, while discussing text 2.15, you quoted term Brahmbhuta. I could not understand the meaning of Brahmbhuta. One thing is this. Second is, while Mataji was discussing the question and while you were answering, so for that, can we take the example which is given at the end of text 2.15, that when Lord Chaitanya took sannyasa at the age of 24, and his dependents, young wife as well as the old mother had no one else to look after him, yet for a higher cause, he took sannyasa. So can this be taken as the example for that we have just discussed now?
Well, I mean, that's different. First of all, I mean, you're a woman, you're not going to take sannyas. So it's it's different for men and women.
I was not talking about from my side, but the example that you gave, as in the sannyasis have to bear up more, that Prabhupada has said that they have to bear more. So for that, can this be taken as example, not for the women or the men aspect, actually?
Yeah, I mean, the point is that this is done for a higher cause. Right? The point that Prabhupada's making is that for a higher cause, he took sannyas. Yeah. So I guess I don't really understand your question. Like, what are you getting at?
Mataji, the entire conversation that did take place right now, regarding the family, that the entire hotel situation, that it is bound to happen. So when we say that Krishna always does things and then we get the learnings out of that, so can this also be taken as an example of giving us the situation that this is to happen? Maybe I'm not able to frame my question better. I'll try to work on the question and maybe can share with Mataji, who is coordinating, and can discuss later about it, Mataji.
Yeah, or type. Also, your voice is a little muffled, so it's hard for me to it's hard for me to understand what you. It's hard. It's unclear, like audibly unclear.
Okay,
Maybe
okay,
type it into the chat, and I'll try to get to it.
I'll try to reframe it. Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay, we have to go on. So we talked about text 16, text 17. All right, so now Krishna is going to start directly talking about the soul. So that which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. And in the purport, Prabhupada gives a lot of fun facts about the soul, that it's 1/10,000th the size of the tip of a hair. He tells us where it's situated. It's situated in the heart region of the body, not necessarily in the heart, the physical heart that pumps, but in the region of the heart in the body. He says that the super soul, the soul is right next to the super soul. They're there together in the heart, and that the influence of the soul is spread throughout the body as consciousness. So it's interesting. In the book, I think it's in the book Coming Back, Prabhupada talks about how the physical heart pumps blood throughout the body. So when the blood goes to all the different extremities of the body, and then it comes back to the heart, and then goes to the extremities and back to the heart. So in science, we learn that the reason it has to keep coming back to the heart is to the heart pumps it around, but it picks up oxygen. It becomes oxygenated because the oxygen from the lungs goes to the heart like that. So it gets oxygenated when it comes to the heart. But Prabhupada said it's not just that. It's that when the blood goes into the heart, it comes in contact, it comes close to the soul and the super soul, and it gets infused with the spiritual energy of consciousness. And then when it goes to all the extremities of the body, it carries consciousness, it spreads consciousness throughout the body. So it's not exactly like carried in the blood the way, something like hemoglobin or oxygen is or something, but it's in the body, there are also these subtle channels. There are subtle channels in the body that scientists cannot observe because they're not made of gross matter. So the channels that carry the pranas and different things like that. So there are channels also that carry consciousness throughout the body, and the consciousness that's seated in the heart is the soul, and causes that consciousness to expand. So I thought that was very interesting. Dayalohana?
Hare Krishna. Mataji, then the organisms which are very small, like a unicellular, one-celled organism, and like there are different type of creatures now, in that how this consciousness are.
I mean, I don't know the mechanics in their little bodies, but they also have different, they don't have ways of circulating blood and things. They have, if they're just very small, then things just cross through membranes and things by diffusion and osmosis and like that. So, I mean, I can't say that I can give you a full understanding of how consciousness moves through the body, but there are some, just Prabhupada says that there is, in humans, it's like this, like the blood going to the heart. So whatever systems they have in their bodies for transferring different substances from one place to the next, then they also have their own systems for making sure that consciousness pervades every part of their being. I can't tell you the details on that. You can do some research if you want. Okay. All right, so let's go to text 18. Text 18 is about, so here Krishna's telling him that because the body is going to come to an end, but the soul is eternal, then you may as well just go ahead and fight. Like, there's no reason for not fighting. Because in any case, the body's going to die. So whether you fight or not fight, it doesn't make any difference. They're going to die anyway. So you might as well fight. That's the argument here. And then in 19, he says, that don't think that you're killing them, because neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. So to think that you're killing somebody is just ignorance. But Prabhupada brings out in the purport that even though the soul cannot be killed, this does not justify killing people whimsically or killing animals whimsically, like slaughterhouses. Because somebody who's running a slaughterhouse could say, yeah, what's the problem with, slaughtering animals? Whoever who thinks the soul is slain is just ignorant, because a person in knowledge knows that the self slays not, nor is slain. So we're not really killing the animals. The soul's eternal. They're going to die anyway, so I may as well just kill them now, right? They can use the same arguments to support slaughterhouses and all kinds of violence and murder and stuff. But Srila Prabhupada is saying that this is, these things cannot be done whimsically. They have to be sanctioned by religious authority. So that's very important. We should look at every instance of killing and ask whether it's sanctioned by religious authority. Okay, then text 20 is a very famous verse. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavitava nabhuyaha ajo nitya shashvato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. So yeah, the soul is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He's unborn, eternal, ever existing and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So Prabhupada talks about how the soul undergoes these 6 transformations, and not the soul, the body. The soul doesn't change, right? It's unchanging, but the body changes. It's born, it grows, it maintains itself for some time. It produces some byproducts, in other words, reproduction, there are children, and then it dwindles and dies. But the soul doesn't undergo any of these changes. And he uses the analogy of the sun again, that the sun is always present in the sky, even though sometimes we might not see it because it's covered by clouds. So in the same way, the soul is always present in the living in a living body, and yet there's the Anu Atma, the very small, tiny particle soul, and we have the tendency to forget the Vibhu Atma, the great soul, the supreme soul. And the difference is that we're forgetful, and he has complete knowledge of past, present, and future, which he never forgets. Those are the main points from that. Text 21. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, or immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So we're going to get back to this verse when we discuss violence. Text 22 is also an important verse. This is a very useful verse for preaching when we're talking to new people and explaining about the science of the soul. Just like 2:13, right? As one goes from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly goes to another body. That's a really good preaching verse. And this one also, that as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So everybody has experienced that even your favorite piece of clothing that you wear all the time, whenever it's clean, you're wearing that one because it's comfortable, you like the way it looks, you like the way it feels, and it's just your favorite piece of clothing. But it comes a time where it gets worn out, it gets stained, it gets ripped, it's like threadbare, and even though you love it and you don't want to part with it, you have to throw it away. Right? Or your mother is like, how much longer are you going to go on wearing that shirt for? You just have to get rid of it. Or she might just steal it out of the laundry basket and burn it or something, like because it's just done, right? So in the same way, the body just gets worn out, it gets useless, and we have to discard it. So that's what death is. It's just discarding a useless body. If the body's too broken, or if it's too old, or if it's too sick, then the soul discards it. The soul's just like throws the body away and gets a new one. Right? Just like we throw that old shirt away and we go and buy a new one. Or hopefully we already have one. We can just put it on. So, yeah. And Prabhupada says in the purport that actually the soul is ushered into the new body by the super soul. So at the time of the death, the super soul, because the super soul always remains with the soul. And the super soul is our best friend, our constant companion, witnesses everything that we do, everything we think, everything we feel. Just like two birds on the tree. This is where he gives that famous analogy that the soul is the bird that's just trying to enjoy the fruits of the tree, and the super soul is the wise bird that's sitting there very equipoised and just watching the silly bird trying to eat sour fruits on the tree and getting sick from them. So the super soul is watching us in our material activities and wondering when we're going to come to our senses and turn to him and take guidance from spiritual master. Text 23, the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So Prabhupada makes the point here that living entities live. So that's in the next one. Yeah. He uses this verse also Prabhupada uses to defeat the Mayavad philosophy, because their idea is that we are all one, and that somehow, due to the influence of Maya, we got split. We got split up. That all one soul got cut into little pieces, and here we are, little pieces of soul in the material world, and that our goal is to merge back into the one that we came from. So, but Krishna is saying here that the soul cannot be cut to pieces. So it's not that we started off as like one piece of cloth and got cut into little pieces of cloth, because the soul can't be cut. We're just eternally what we are. Yeah. Pandit Gadadhar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, from the verse number 22, it's been stated that the transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of super soul. And when that soul in the super soul is sitting on the body or is like a tree, and the super soul is watching that the bird is eating the fruits or whatsoever, so then why the super soul is not intervening at that point in time and engaging the soul in the service of Krishna? Why it is the super soul is waiting for the bird to move to or to see the super soul and then engage itself in the service of Krishna?
Yeah, because the Lord respects our free will. And one of the qualities of Krishna is that he is Swarat. He's supremely independent. And as his parts and parcels, we also have that quality of independence. We have a minute independence. And so Krishna doesn't interfere with that independence. So he's waiting for us to make an independent, conscious decision to turn to him, exercising our free will to turn to him. And the reason that's important to him is because without free will, without independence, there cannot be loving service, right? If you're just wired, if you're programmed to serve Krishna, then it's not coming from a place of love and feeling, because you're forced. You can't choose otherwise. So Krishna gives us the facility to choose, the ability to choose him or Maya, because when we consciously choose him, it's coming from the heart. He's pleased that we're deciding to choose him. But the super soul doesn't intervene.
So Mataji, so in continuation with that, Mataji, so with my free will, I choose to see super soul and I somehow engage in the service of Krishna. Then there are certain rules and regulations which we need to follow, right? So isn't this a sort of my free will is restricted somehow, that I cannot do this, I cannot do that, but I need to follow the rules and regulations being laid by my spiritual master, being laid by the authorities in serving Krishna. So how we can understand this point, Mataji?
Why we need to follow rules and regulations to serve Krishna?
Yes, Mataji. If I willingly choose to see Super Soul and follow his instructions, then on the second step, there are certain rules and regulations that we need to follow in actually serving Krishna.
Okay, so why can't we just listen to the Super Soul? Why do we have to take a spiritual master and follow all these rules and regulations, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra? Why do we need that if the Super Soul will just direct us himself?
Yes,
okay.
yes, Mataji.
So one reason is that at least, you know, in the beginning of our spiritual lives, we're too dull to hear the voice of the Super Soul. We don't know what the Super Soul is telling us, right? And we can't distinguish between our materialistic minds, what the mind is telling us, and what the Super Soul is telling us. So we really need somebody else to help us make that distinction and help make things clear for us. And actually, it said that the spiritual master is the external representation of the Super Soul. And it's the Super Soul who guides us to a particular spiritual master that's good for us. So the Super Soul makes all these arrangements in our lives to bring us into the association of devotees who can help us understand who is our guru, and like that, to inspire us. Whenever we get inspiration, it's the Super Soul. We're inspired to do a certain service. If it's pure inspiration and it's not, you know, driven by lust or something, then it's that's the Super Soul. So the Super Soul helps us to connect with those external things that we need. And also the Shastras, the rules and regulations, are given by the Lord. So those are also, I mean, the Super Soul is the Lord, the Shastras coming from the Lord. They're all working together. All these things are coming from the Lord, different ways that Krishna is helping us, from within, from without, from this side, from that side. As soon as we decide that we want to serve Krishna, then he helps us in a multitude of ways. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Vaibhavi?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. To Prabhuji's question, I have also one question. Like, when we are willingly involved in any material activity, Super Soul doesn't stop us. Okay. But when we willingly want to serve Krishna, then why he sends Maya Devi and surround us with so many responsibilities, so many boundaries, and so many what do we call barriers to obstacles to reach him? It means when we are willingly involved in Maya, in material activities, he doesn't stop us. He doesn't put obstacles. Right? But when willingly we are trying to serve him, reach him, connect with him, why is he putting so many obstacles?
I mean, it's not true that he doesn't give us obstacles in material life. He gives us so many obstacles in material life, right? Like whenever you try to do something materially, you always end up getting frustrated, right? We just saw that the nature of this material world is to cause us confusion and perplexity. So that's Krishna that designed it that way. That's Krishna's way of stopping us from doing material activities, of totally frustrating us, disappointing us, leaving us disgusted and hurt and
leaving us with no option.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So the Super Soul arranges all those things, especially for one who takes to Krishna consciousness. Then if you try to enjoy material life after that, forget it. You know, you're just setting yourself up for a big headache. So
no backdoor and no exit.
Yeah. So it's just and he engages Maya in testing us to make sure that we are to make sure that he can trust us. Oh, you said you wanted to serve me. So then how about in this situation? What are you going to choose? Are you going to serve me, or are you going to go back into your Maya? And then we have to choose Krishna. And then we'll be doing good for a while, and then Maya comes again. Oh, so Krishna's like, go there, Maya, and see if he really wants to serve me. See if she really wants to surrender to me. Give them a really hard one this time, you know? And then you come up against that, and then you're like, oh my God, am I going to surrender to Krishna more, or am I going to just like indulge my senses and mind? And then every time we choose Krishna, then, you know, the tests get harder and harder. But after a certain point, then Krishna's like, all right, you passed. I trust you. And then Maya kind of backs off. Maya will back off, and then our path becomes a lot more free from obstacles. So when you get to higher stages of devotional service, you know, like as long as we're like in an anartha vritti, we're always getting confronted. We're always getting confronted by Maya, because Maya points out our anarthas. And we need to see those anarthas so that we can throw them away. But once we get to the level of nishta, and especially we get to the level of ruchi, then it's almost like smooth sailing. It's very easy. And you know, Maya backs off a lot, because in full Krishna consciousness, Maya can't come, right? Because Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakara, Yahan Krishna Tahan Nahi Maya Adhikara. Like Krishna is like the sun, and Maya is like darkness. So when the full sun is high in the sky, there's no darkness. So when we're fully Krishna conscious, then Maya can't even come close. But as long as we have material attachments, as long as there's still some absence of Krishna consciousness, then Maya comes in. She comes in those cracks, and she gets us, and she tests us. But every time that we choose Krishna, then it seals that crack, so she can't come in there again. And then she'll try to come in another crack, and we're like, Krishna, and we choose Krishna, seals that crack. And when we're fully Krishna conscious, then all the cracks are sealed. Maya can't come in.
So thank you so much, Mataji. That was the most wonderful explanation I've ever heard for this question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Deepika.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, I'm so confused like about one thing. Like I'm talking about myself. Like I'm trying to follow the path of KC, Krishna consciousness, to understand what is super soul and what is soul. Like, and trying to I'm following 4 regulative principles, and I know that in ISKCON all Vaishnavas, they follow everything. But recently I went to London, and there, like if we talk about population, like no, 98% people, their day is starting with coffee, again caffeine, and the whole day they are drinking, they are taking non-veg, they are eating, like no, all. If we talk about 4 regulative principle, like that stands nowhere. And their lifestyle is such, like alcohol, that means like everything is there. And I was like, no, I was so much like in wonder, like what will happen to them? Where will they go? So Mataji, like what about them? Like they will all, where will they go? Like we are struggling in so much things, like like as I'm just on new in this path, and like for every small little thing we are saying no, okay, fine, we are following all the regulative principles from core of our heart. But like these people, they are not doing anything. So what will happen to them? My question is this.
Yeah, just read the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The future is not good for people like that. So that's why it's nice, because I can see that, I can understand that you're speaking out of compassion for those people. So that's a nice Vaishnav quality, compassion for the suffering of others. So yeah, we have to give them knowledge. We have to go out and do Harinam and do book distribution and organize programs, distribute prasadam, and somehow or other help them so that at least they can get a human birth, that they can be saved from going to hell and hellish planets. And yeah, because it's not looking good for people like that.
Mataji, here again, I tried to do that, and I like no, I cooked. My son is in hostel, like he's doing masters in London. So I twice I cooked prasadam and I distributed them. That I did, and apart from that, I tried to convey to them like what is like no, a small gist, but they were not at all receptive, because they are in such a like no mode of this samogana. They are not ready to listen to anything. For them, everything is no, does not exist. For them, it does not exist.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, what can we do?
We can only try, we can just try. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, is the saying. So the thing is that because they're so fixed on sense gratification, like I said, the super soul, Krishna doesn't interfere with our independence. So if they really, really want to try to enjoy and control the material world, then the super soul is going to help them in their endeavor. You're going to see later in Bhagavad Gita, you're going to be surprised. I think this comes in chapter 5. Prabhupada says in a purport that the super soul is neutral. The super soul is neutral. The super soul will, he'll guide you. If you want to do devotional service, he'll guide you to go back to Godhead. But if you want to try to enjoy yourself materially, he will guide you to go to hell. It's like, boom, it's up to us. We have to take responsibility for our lives. We have to take responsibility to get knowledge, to understand who we are, what we're doing here, what is the actual purpose of life, what is the goal, what is our destination after death. That's the responsibility of someone in the human form of life. We can't just live like animals and think that, eating, drinking, and being merry, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and thinking that, we're going to be elevated. So people don't know that. They need knowledge, but they don't want the knowledge. And the super soul literally, like if you approach someone like who's very determined to just like commit sinful activities, and they think that's the purpose of life, you try to give them a book, they're going to say no. They'll when they see you coming, they're going to cross the road to avoid you. Who tells them to cross the road? Who gives them the idea? Oh, there's some religious person coming across the road. It's the super soul. Super soul's like, oh, get over there. Maybe they don't even see the person. Maybe they don't even see the devotee coming with the books. Super soul's like, quick, cross the road. Right? Because he knows that's not what they want. So what to do? We have to we need to get our desires in the right place. It all comes down to our desire. Right? When you get to the 15th chapter where it talks about the banyan tree, its material existence is compared to an upside down banyan tree. And it says the banyan tree, the reality is the spiritual world. It's like a tree that's the spiritual world, right? But like a tree on the edge of a water, a lake, you see the reflection is upside down. Prabhupada says perverted reflection. So this material world is the reflection is situated on the water, right? So he says that the banyan tree of material existence, the upside down one, is situated on our desire. It exists because of desire. If the desire wasn't there, the tree wouldn't be there. Just like if there's no water, you don't see the reflection. So this whole existence, this whole situation that we're in is because we want it. So we need to change our desire. And then everything in our life will change. And we'll start to experience the reality.
I really got my answer for this. Like I was struggling hard for this question, and it was piercing me deep inside. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And as soon as we desire Krishna, the super soul will clear the way, because that's what he wants. He'll just clear the way back to Godhead. Dialohana. There's a whole other thing that I wanted to talk about today about violence, but so let's try to do the questions quickly and then we go on.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, then the material tree, like upside down tree, where branches of desire, like that is written in 15th chapter. My question is how the first material desire came to us. In past, we were like.
Yeah, that's a big question. I'm not going to go there now because we have to cover a whole thing. You just hold that question. And all right, Harshika, let's see what you have there. Is it related here to these points about the soul?
Mataji, I have no question. I have just one humble request. Please do this question answer session at the end. It just breaks the flow and the rhythm of the shlokas. I really respect the
okay. So let's get back to the shlokas.
But I really want to just do the shlokas first in the. Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right then. So we are moving on. Where are we? Text 25. 625, the individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, cannot be burned or dried. He's everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Okay, so let's see. Oh, 24, 25. Oh, it's here where it says Sarvagata. Means the souls go everywhere. That means there's life everywhere. There's life on every planet in the universe, despite what the scientists say. They can only see what they can see with their eyes, but they can't see really what's going on. And because of all these qualities of the soul, you shouldn't grieve for the body, because the body anyways is going to die. All right, so then he says in 26, if however you think that the soul will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament. So this is where, yeah, even if Arjuna was to be like a material scientist and say, oh, we're just the body. So if we're just the body, and the body is just a big lump of chemicals, then who cares? You know, if the body dies, it's just like if you have you're in the lab and you have a beaker full of chemicals and it falls off the table and spills. It's like, you're not going to lament. You're just going to get the mop, clean it up, and, you know, pour some new chemicals and go on with your experiment. It's like, why lament over a lump of chemicals? So yeah, even if you think that we are this body, no reason to lament. And if you know that you're not the body, then there's no reason to lament. So really, there's no reason to lament at all. It says, one who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. And again, Prabhupada says, this cycle of birth and death does not support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. Okay, so let's just let's go into this point here. This is what I wanted to talk about, is about violence. So throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is clearly advocating violence, right? He keeps saying again, fight. Therefore, get up and fight. Go and fight, right? He really wants Arjuna to fight. So someone could even use Bhagavad Gita to support acts of violence, like terrorism. And actually, acts of terrorism are usually done by religious people who think that their violence is justified and that they're killing people in the name of God. And that by killing people, they're going to get promoted to heaven. So we need to be very clear about what kind of violence is being advocated here in the Bhagavad Gita. So, yeah, and this is also, I don't know if you'll be asked to write this essay, but there's an essay for Bhakti Shastri that is 3 parts. And the first is, when is violence justified? The second part is, why did Krishna, who is all loving, incite Arjuna to war? And the third part is terrorism in the name of religion appropriate or inappropriate? So as far as the first question, when is violence justified? So we see different references from Prabhupada's purports here in this section that answer that question. So first of all, if we go to verse 21, 221, Prabhupada says that he makes this general point that violence is justified when it's beneficial for human society. And he gives the example of the judge, a justice of the peace, that when he condemns a murderer to death, it's actually for the benefit of the murderer, because he gets free from sin, and it's also for the benefit of everyone else, because then they don't have a murderer walking the streets, you know, to murder someone else. And Prabhupada specifically says that for the administration of justice, violence is permitted. And he also gives this other analogy that a surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna on the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge. So, like that. Yeah. So if someone has if someone has a cancerous tumor, then a surgeon comes with a knife and he's going to stab the person, he's going to cut into the person. So that's actually a violent act, right? To take a knife and to like cut someone with the knife looks like a violent act, but actually he's doing it to save the person's life. So those are points from text 21. And then in text 27, that's the one we just read, where it says that violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. So when there are people, demoniac forces in society, the Ravanas of the world, when they want to mistreat people and abuse people and abduct other people's wives and exploit people and keep them as prisoners and slaves and do all kinds of nefarious things with them, then somebody has to take action. And if that person will not obey the law, then there needs to be a battle, right? Sometimes there needs to be a war. But for keeping law and order, for protecting innocent people. And again in text 31, in the purport, in the first paragraph of the purport, says the Kshatriyas are especially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. So yeah, violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Okay, so those are all arguments for that violence is justified when it's beneficial, for helping others, for protecting. And the word Kshatriya literally means to protect from harm. So it's the Kshatriyas who get violent, not others. The Shudras should not be getting violent and killing people. Vaishyas shouldn't be killing people over business. Brahmins only in absolute emergencies when there's no Kshatriya to do the job, like with King Vena. But generally it's the Kshatriyas, and they do it for the purpose of protecting others from harm. Okay, then another reason, another circumstance in which violence is justified is when it's according to religious principles. So you may think, oh, this will be beneficial to kill someone, but it has to be according to religious principles. It can't just be, perceived as beneficial. So an example of this is we saw in the last chapter in text 36, where Prabhupada lists the 6 types of aggressors who, according to Vedic injunctions, must be killed. So that's religious principles because it's according to Vedic injunctions. We can't just say, oh, this person's aggressive, I'm going to kill them. You have to see, are they one of the 6 types of aggressors? And are we the person to kill them? Like, we don't have authority to kill someone. But if someone's abducting our wife or setting fire to our home, we go to the police and they can get the person and they can decide if they want to kill him or do whatever they want with him. Okay. Yeah, so that's the other point, is that it's the Kshatriya's religious duty to sometimes kill. If we're not Kshatriyas, if we're not, in the military, basically, or in the police, or in an occupation where it's our duty to kill, then we can't kill. And Prabhupada often says that a soldier in war, he gets a medal, he gets a gold medal for killing, hundreds and thousands of people. But then after the war is over and he's just he may still be a military person, but if just, while he's in his hometown with his family, somebody insults him and he kills him, then he goes to jail for that. Because it has to be authorized. In the case of this battle of Kurukshetra, that everybody who gets killed goes to heavenly planets, so they get benefited also. And then in text 27, yeah, Srila Prabhupada says at the end of the purport that actually, if Arjuna doesn't kill the opposing army, then he's guilty of neglecting his duty. He's being irresponsible. So Prabhupada says, by avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. So yeah, that's something to consider, that if it's our religious duty, if it's our, if you're I don't know what it's like in India, but in America, if there's a murderer and you see that he's about to kill someone, the police all carry guns, and it's their duty to pull their gun and shoot the guy. And they do that. So the police will kill someone. And if he doesn't kill the person, and that person, because the policeman wanted to be peaceful or something, and he doesn't kill him, and then that person goes and kills an innocent person, then it's the policeman's fault. He becomes degraded. He gets a sinful reaction for that because he didn't do his duty. You see, like that. So it has to be authorized. And also in this case, in the case of Arjuna, it's very clear what he needs to do, because at the end of text 30 purport, Prabhupada says that though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged, but at the time of war, it is not discouraged when there is an actual need. So there has to be a need. And that need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord and not capriciously. So it has to be sanctioned by the Lord. In this case, Battle of Kurukshetra is sanctioned by the Lord himself. And then the last point about when is violence justified is when it's unavoidable. Because even in the Battle of Kurukshetra, they tried everything to stop this battle, right? They went to talk to Duryodhana. They said, look, we don't need the whole world. We don't need the whole Hastinapur. Just give us 5 villages. We're Kshatriyas. We need to rule. Just give us each 1 village. We'll be happy. And what did Duryodhana say? He said, I'm not going to give you the amount of land that you can put a needle into. He said, I'm not giving you anything, not even the tip of land, the piece of land that covers the tip of a needle. And so they were forced because of Duryodhana's obstinacy, Duryodhana's stubbornness. And in the Mahabharata also, we see that at one point, Krishna goes personally to Duryodhana to try to make peace. And he even shows a partial universal form to Duryodhana to show that, look, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm the absolute truth. And I'm asking you to please just make a peaceful settlement with the Pandavas. Otherwise, it's going to be very bad for you. And I'm God, so I know, But Duryodhana was so foolish and so stubborn. He's like, I don't care who you are. We're going to fight. So with someone like that, there's no other alternative. It's unavoidable. Okay. So then the next question was, what about terrorism in the name of religion? Oh, no. Let's see. No, the next question was, why did Krishna, who is all loving, incite Arjuna to war? So the point here is that Krishna is all loving. So why would he engage someone he loves in such a ghastly thing? And so, yeah, because this was Krishna's mission, right? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam. So he engages his devotees in helping him with his mission. That's what a devotee is. Devotee is one who serves the Lord by serving his mission. And because Krishna's mission was to annihilate the miscreants and establish the principles of religion, then he engaged Arjuna in helping him annihilate the miscreants. And all loving because he wanted Arjuna to get the credit. He showed him later. They're all dead by my arrangement. He showed them in chapter 11. They're all being crushed in the mouth of the universal form. They're already as good as dead. But I want you to just act as my instrument because I want you to get the credit. I want you to be the hero of the Battle of Kurukshetra and get the glory. And then, we saw in the very first verse of Bhagavad Gita the idea of removing the weeds from the paddy field. So Krishna's love for all people, because it's not just the Pandavas that were suffering under Duryodhana. It was everybody, because who wants to have a king like that, who's an absolute tyrant, who's a narcissistic person like that? And so Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala. He's favorably disposed towards his devotees. So he wants a devotee to be the king. He wants devotees to rule the world and propagate religious principles and set the example of devotion to Krishna, because whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standard he sets by his exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So he wants to have the example of Krishna conscious leadership so that everyone will be inspired to be Krishna conscious. Okay. So the last part of that question is about terrorism. Is terrorism in the name of religion appropriate or inappropriate? So obviously, I think we know the answer to that question, that terrorism is never appropriate. But let's take a look at, let's contrast Arjuna's fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra, because that's also violence in the name of God, all right? God ordained violence, with terrorism in the name of religion, which they also believe to be God ordained violence. So what's the difference between these two types of God ordained violence? So we can examine this in different, by different metrics, different criteria for comparison. So the first criteria is the person doing the killing. So in the battle of Kurukshetra, the person doing the killing here is, we're looking at Arjuna. So, I mean, also all the Pandava army, you could say, even the Kaurava army for that matter, who are doing the killing. They're all trained Kshatriyas who want to be on the battlefield, whose duty it is to fight. And especially the Pandavas, they're fighting to protect the citizens from harm. Whereas terrorists, in the name of religion, they tend to be fanatical young people with little to no training, right? It's just these, like, sometimes it's like teenagers or just young people with like machine guns, and they have no idea what they're doing. Okay. Now we can also look at it in terms of the people who are killed by the violence. So who are the people killed in the battle of Kurukshetra? They're also Kshatriyas. They're military men. And we heard in the last chapter that they're prepared to lay down their lives. They're willing to fight. And yeah, they're going into it knowing that there's a chance that they're going to be killed. They know what they're signing up for. Whereas in terrorist attacks, what kind of people are killed? It's people who are just normal people, just random civilians who are unsuspecting. They're unarmed. There's women, there's children, and they're just going about their daily lives. The next thing you know, there's a machine gunner shooting everyone down or something like that, or a bomb goes off in their train or something on their way to work. So it's very different people who are being killed. Okay, also what's different is the place of killing. So here it's on a battle of Kurukshetra, it's on a designated battlefield. They've carefully selected a battlefield that's a holy place so that whoever gets killed there gets elevated. Whereas the place of killing for terrorists is just anywhere and everywhere. It's on buses, trains, schools, office buildings. Sometimes they take place at even churches, at places of worship, or, you know, maybe a big festival is going on and they just throw a bomb there. So it's just anywhere and everywhere. At least on the battlefield, the only people that get hurt in the battle are the people who are actually like consciously, willingly taking part in the battle. Okay, then the next thing is the authority for killing. So they both think that they're being authorized by God. But in the battle of Kurukshetra, it's very clearly, the authority is very clearly established because it's the direct order of Krishna. Krishna is telling Arjuna multiple times, fight, you need to do this. And also there's the authority of law with the Pandavas, because legally, according to the laws regarding inheritance of the kingdom, Yudhisthira was meant to be the king. He was the rightful heir to the throne. So there's also a legal authority there, that they're doing what's just, even according to mundane laws. And then we saw that it's also according to laws regarding aggressors. So they're following laws, direct authority of Krishna, and also various shastras, including legal authority. Whereas a lot of terrorist attacks are due to misinterpretations of scriptures. right? For example, in one example of this is that in the Quran, there's it talks about the battle of good and evil. So that, yeah, we all believe that evil in the world needs to be rooted out, and that good, or righteous religious behavior should be encouraged. But they misinterpret that anybody who's following their particular faith is a good person, and anybody who's not following their faith is a bad person, is an evil person, and that they should be killed. Yes, please tell us, because you know more about this than me, from Pakistan. Damni, did you want to say something? Oh, I guess not. I thought she was going to give me an example.
No, Mataji.
Okay. So yeah, so that's what I heard from when I was studying Bhakti Shastri. Actually, my teacher gave this example, so I'm just passing it on to you. Vaibhavi. Oh, let me just finish. Otherwise, somebody's going to get upset. Who was that was getting upset about it? Harshika. Let's just go through this. So, because also we're out of time, but there's just a few more things. Okay, so let's contrast these in terms of attempts to avoid the violence. So we saw that in the Battle of Kurukshetra, there were many attempts to avoid violence. They tried peaceful settlements. They tried coming to some agreement, accepting some compromise to avoid violence. But in terrorism, there's no attempt to avoid violence. In fact, the violence is performed even without any instigation. It's like the first thing that they do is violence. It's not like a last resort. Battle of Kurukshetra was the last resort when nothing else, everything else was tried and nothing else worked. Okay, then there's the tactics, the actual battle tactics. So Battle of Kurukshetra, they adhered to the Vedic rules of warfare, because there's the Dhanar Veda, all these Vedic rules for warfare. For example, you don't attack at night. You don't attack somebody who's not armed. You attack only, Kshatriyas who are on the battlefield, holding a weapon, who are challenging you. You don't even attack someone when their back is turned. Of course, a little bit of that happened on Krishna's instigation, right? Like when Karna was trying to get his chariot wheel out of the mud, and Krishna said, kill him now. And Arjuna was like, how can I do that? And he's like, you're going to kill him now. So, but generally speaking, they were following the Vedic rules of warfare. But terrorists don't follow any rules. They're very sneaky. They just attack, randomly when people are least expecting it. They basically don't follow any of the Vedic rules. Okay, and then the final thing is the effect that it has on society, the consequences or the aftermath of the terrorism. So the effect of the Battle of Kurukshetra was the reestablishment of Yudhisthira as king. So they had a pious king, a devotee king. Peace was restored to society. There was prosperity for everyone. Everyone was happy, and society became very wonderful under the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira. Whereas after terrorist attacks, what is the effect on society? Usually the government doesn't change. The political situation does not get better. But what it does, it increases everybody's fear. Now everybody's afraid that every time they get on the train, a bomb's going to go off. Or it increases hate. There are these hate crimes, from people who are not terrorists, but they get lumped in with terrorists. Like, there was a whole wave of Islamophobia after the terrorist attacks. And so racial prejudice, like that. So very bad effects on society. So you can see that even though these terrorists, some of these terrorists actually have religious principles similar to ours, and that they're opposed to the materialistic way of life, and they want to promote religion in the world. But their attempt to change society is by bombing it, and that's not the way to change the world. And Srila Prabhupada says in the purport to chapter 4.8 in Bhagavad Gita, he says that the real way to change the world is to change people's hearts. We have to change people's hearts by giving them Krishna consciousness. He says the process for Kali Yuga is to deliver the demons through the holy name, not by killing the body. We don't kill the body, we kill the demoniac mentality. So that's our mission. That's Lord Chaitanya's mission. That Lord Chaitanya didn't come to kill the demons. He came to save them all by giving them the holy names and the processes of bhakti. Okay, whew, that was a lot. So anyways, you'll probably get assigned an essay on this section. It'll either be the one in relation to violence or the one in relation to general principles to be derived from Arjuna's dilemma and the battle of Kurukshetra and how that applies to our own practice of bhakti. So we've covered both of those today. So that should help you with your essays. And we've also looked at Krishna's instructions on Gyan, about the eternality of the soul. And that section has a lot of preaching applications that we can convince people that the soul is eternal. You're not the body. Things related to the body are not so as important as you think they are. Try to see everybody as a soul and try to help them make spiritual advancement, because that's the real purpose of life. Okay, so we're a little over time. Does anyone have a burning question? See, this is the benefit of having all the questions in the classes, that I can just end when I'm done. Deepika, go ahead.
Hey, Krishna Mataji, Mataji, regarding the after effects of the battle, you explained so beautifully. But every time when I look about this, so image comes to my mind about after effects, like so many dead bodies and widows and kids whose fathers they lose their fathers who were killed in this battle. So that was also worse effect on the ladies, those who are widows and all. What was that?
Now you're speaking just like Arjuna. You're speaking learned words, but
Sorry,
when you're lamenting for what is not worthy of grief. I mean, you don't need to worry. If Maharaj Yudhisthira is the king, he is definitely going to take care of all the widows and the children who are fatherless. He's going to put social systems in place to protect these women and children and all vulnerable members of society. Right? So you don't need to worry. Vishaka.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I am unable to understand some lines from the purport of Srila Prabhupada in chapter 1, text number 15. Can you please guide me through this?
Chapter 1?
Text 15.
151.
Okay, go ahead.
The impersonalists cannot account for the senses of the living entities, and therefore they are always anxious to describe all living entities as senseless or impersonal. The Lord, situated in the hearts of all living entities, directs their senses, but he directs in terms of the surrender of the living entity, and in the case of a pure devotee, he directly controls the senses.
Yeah.
I'm not able to understand this.
What does it mean?
What does it mean? What is Srila Prabhupada trying to say in this, in these lines?
Okay. Yeah. So this is what we were talking about, that the impersonalists,
yes,
they want to see everybody as impersonal, without senses, senseless, that the soul is senseless, the soul has no thoughts, no feelings, no spiritual body to do anything with. It's just basically a nothing, like a nirvana situation. And yeah, and because the Lord directs all living entities in terms of their surrender, then for the impersonalists, then he just lets them go on thinking like that. But for the devotees who want to serve him, then he inspires them to serve them. he gives them service opportunities. He puts them in touch with the spiritual master and other, devotees and mentors who can guide him in service, him or her, in serving him in different ways with their senses. So it's not that Krishna's like picking up your hand and putting it on the flower and putting the flower on the needle and stringing it on the garland. But Krishna's, I mean, in one sense he is, because you couldn't do that without his empowerment, right? Because Krishna says, I am the ability in man, I'm the strength of the strong. So all these things come from Krishna because everything is Krishna's energy, right? But it's not that we're like puppets and Krishna's just controlling the strings. We can choose how to use our bodies. But if we choose to serve Krishna, then Krishna will just make all the arrangements to line up services for us and to give us instruction and training in how to do those services.
Mataji, thank you.
And yeah, like even, Srila Prabhupada himself as an example that when he said that when he was dictating his purports, he said it was Krishna speaking through him. So that's an example where the Lord directly controls the senses, is that Krishna can speak through the devotee. Krishna can use the pure devotee's, vocal cords and tongue and, process of his voice to speak. He can speak through the devotee to say the right words. The words that Krishna wants to say to someone, he puts in the mouth of the pure devotee and controls his senses to make him say it. Like that. That's what it means to be Krishna's What's so funny there, Vishaka?
Thank you so much, Mataji. I got it.
Okay. All right. Are we good?
Vaibhavi Mataji, have you to ask any question?
No, Mataji, I just wanted to tell my realization with one of the topic we have discussed, that this terrorism comes with the idea of changing the thoughts of other person, forcing people. So I've come across with such experience. I wanted to share that, but I think we are out of the time, so it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can't force people to change their thoughts anyway, and you're not going to make them change their thoughts by throwing a bomb at them. There's a nice saying that says, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still.
Yeah. Right.
You understand? So we have to willingly come to different ways of thinking. And that comes through purification and transformation, that comes through bhakti. So only by the purifying process of devotional service, by hearing from devotees, by studying Shastra, those devotional activities, then our bad qualities become purified, they're removed, and then we can think more purely, we can think more clearly, we can think of Krishna.
Thank
okay,
you so
last
much.
one then, Dialohanam.
Mataji, I want to ask the homework you guys given us.
Homework? I'm not giving any homework. I'm not teaching any classes now for a while. This is my last class.
You said na that practical application and that.
Oh no, I'm just saying that I mean, whoever's administering the course, they'll give you some essay and they'll assign an essay. My job is only to prepare you to write your essays.
Okay.
So talk to Rukmini Harisevani about that, or yeah.
Okay.
All right. I better go. Yeah, I was supposed to. The reason I wanted to stop 15 minutes ago is because I have a program that I'm supposed to attend.
Yes, thank you so very much, Hargis Prabhupada. Priya Mataji. Just wanted to share one thing that when we thinking to have a batch like only in which only Bhakti Vedanta would teach, his guest Bimla Prasad Prabhu, his guest Asal Prabhu, her guest Sitarani Mataji, all of them when we were discussing like, so they took first name that was yours, that we should, Mataji should come and teach. And we are very thankful to you, Mataji, that you gave us these 3 sessions. Of course, I'm so sure that these, I can see the devotees' feedback also. We have got the feedback also from the devotees, from few devotees, that really they feel really blissful to have session from you. Thank you so very much, Mataji. Humble request to please keep teaching us. Please help us to grow in bhakti. Please bless all of us that we learn and we preach Krishna consciousness. Thank you so very much, Mataji.
Thank you. I feel very honored. I feel like I just got the Agra Puja. You know, like the first worship after the Rajasuya Yajna. Yeah, but seriously, yeah, whatever you learn, please take it very seriously and try to apply it and try to pass it on to others, share it, right? That's the slogan, I think, of the VIHE is learn and teach others. And by teaching others, you learn more. So please do that and teach also by your example of following everything that you've learned here. Jai, all glories to Krishna's Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveda Bhakti
Jai.
Jai. Nitai Gaur
Jai.
Jai.
Hare
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Hare Krishna
Prabhupada, Priya
Mataji.
Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Um,
Hi Krishna, just there is one formal information that we would have our next session on Monday, and his Bimla Prasad Prabhu will gonna take your rest of the sessions.
for whole of the Bhagavad Gita, Mataji?
Yes. Unit 1, remaining
No.
9 sessions will be taken by his Bimla Prasad Prabhu. Then we have another teachers for Unit 2, Unit 3, NOD, Isho, Upanishad, and why. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Who would you? Okay. Thank you.